question number H on the trig and log derivatives with the product and quotient rule. This has a product in the numerator and a product in the denominator and a quotient. So this is quite complicated. So we have to make sure that first of all we can simplify where we can. Otherwise, we're going to make it harder than we need to. So if we take a look at x cubed over x, that can be simplified. So that's the very first thing I'm going to do. I'm going to simplify this to the derivative of 2x squared sine x over log x. Okay, so that's the first thing I'm going to do. Now, when I do this, now I have a product rule and I have a quotient rule going on here. Now, I could do it either way, and then the first solution I'm going to show you is I'm going to group this so that we have a product. So I'm going to take this 2x squared and I'm going to multiply it with the quotient here, sine x log x. Okay. Now the sine x log x is itself has a quotient. So as I apply the product rule, I have to worry about applying the quotient rule for the derivative of the green part. So first thing is I'm just going to set up my product rule here. So the derivative of this is going to be the derivative of the first term times the second term. Okay, this is this quotient here, plus the first term times the derivative of the second term. Now the derivative of the second term is a quotient, so I'm just going to make this a lot bigger because I'm going to have to fit the quotient rule in here. So there's the derivative. The only places I'm going to have derivatives are in this green place here where I'm differentiating this quotient, and this red one here where I'm just differentiating that simple polynomial function. So there's my product rule. Now embedded inside that product rule I have this quotient, sine x divided by log x. So because there's a quotient there, when I differentiate the green part, I have to apply quotient rule. So I'm going to set up the quotient rule in here. So I'm going to have sine x times the derivative of, this is the derivative of sine x times the denominator, which is going to be log x, minus the first term, the numerator term, sine x, and then this is going to be the derivative of the denominator. Okay, so that's going to be the derivative of log x here. Okay, so just make sure that's clear. That's my derivative there. And in the denominator, I have the denominator squared. So inside the green, when I differentiate a quotient, that's the only place I apply the quotient rule. So there it is. So I'm going to write in the different parts here. So I have the derivative. This is the derivative of first term. That's going to be 4x. And then the second part of this does not change because we don't differentiate this. So sine x over log x. Okay, this next part of the product rule, the 2x squared doesn't change, so I just leave that as 2x squared. But now I have to apply the quotient rule in this case. So I'm going to have the derivative of sine, which is cos, and I'm going to have my log x. I'm going to have my sine x here. I don't differentiate it. And then the derivative of sine x is going to generate my 1 over x function. So this is my 1 over x. Okay, that's the derivative. And then in the denominator, I have log x all squared. So there it is. I've got my derivative. This is, I can use this expression to calculate slope. So I'm going to simplify this out because we kind of, if we're going to do anything with it, it's going to look better and be more useful if I simplify this out. So I'm just going to simplify this out. So y prime is equal to, well, I'm just going to make sure I get a common denominator here. So I'm going to end up with, I'm going to put log x in the denominator and numerator just to make it a common denominator. So then I have everything over top of log squared. Okay, so I'm going to multiply this out. I get 4x log x sine x plus, okay, I'm going to distribute this out, so I end up with 2x squared log x times cosine x minus the 2x squared, and the divide by x cancel out, so I'm just left with 2x sine x. Okay, so there it is. Looks like I have a common factor of x and 2, so I'm going to factor that out. I think that's my only common factor though. So when I factor that out with 2x, 2 log x sine x plus, factor the 2x out of here, I'm left with x log x cosine x minus sine x. And that's all over my common denominator of log x, all squared. Okay, so there is my derivative simplified. Up here, I've done this, the way I showed it this time was showing the product rule of product of the red times green, and when I'm differentiating the green, I'm applying the quotient rule here.